Good morning, everyone. I've been looking at my schedule and seeing what I've got coming up, and I think I've got to do 2 commentaries a week. Somebody's out. People are getting up in the morning, and you can see them driving around. It's early. It's still dark outside. I'd lower my window, but you wouldn't see anything. And there goes Kitty. He knows when I get started that he's got to get my attention. I'll put up with a little bit of that, but not much. Don't get mad. Just deal with situations. So anyhow, we get back to Corinthians. It's important education for us that we get back to that. I prefer teaching it open the way I've been teaching it, where I'm not studying the text ahead of time. I've read it many times, but because we have limited brain capacity, most people can't retain everything we read in its entirety. Yeah, he's going to go into full blitzkrieg here, so I'm going to go ahead and lock him up. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Kitty can play in the other room and shouldn't be a bother. I'll let him out and give him the attention he needs, but not until we're done with this. He knows that I start this and tries to get my attention. He says, "You're not paying attention to me." He's a 3-year-old. And we behave that way with God too, so I understand how God has, in his patience, dealt with us. Okay, so we're going to kind of just go through what I see going on, sort of the headlines. The bottom line is that the world is not our home. It's not going to behave the way we want to be. I was thinking about this morning. We have all these religions in the world. That's what that is. My other heater kicked on. It's going to get hot in here, because that one takes a long time to shut off. Anyhow, if you want to be a good worldly person, not connected to God in any way, but a good worldly person, you can find a religion out there for you. It won't be good for you in the long term, because it won't prepare you to go to heaven. There are pseudo-religions like Scientology that will teach you to focus, to achieve the best you could possibly do on this earth. And there are people that have done that, and they've spent a lot of money. I'm very grateful to Scientology. When I was in the military, I got a lot of gear from somebody who was going up their channel and having to pay for each level. He sold a lot of his stuff, and I bought a lot of it. So from that point of view, I'm grateful. In any case, the world is not for us, so why learn how to be good and better in this world when we can also get to heaven and learn about the world at the same time? What better teacher than the creator of the universe to teach us how to live within this world? We are not living in our proper state right now. Adam and Eve, pre-temptation, were living in the proper state. Peaceably wandering around a garden, talking with the animals, talking with God. But apparently, that was not enough for Satan. He knows he can't be bigger and badder than God. When I say bad, I mean more powerful. Because God is everywhere, omnipresent, You can't be bigger than someone who's everywhere. But he thinks he can do a better job running things. And he's trying to prove it. Time and time again he's trying to prove it. But he's trying to prove it the way the world proves things. If you have competition, eliminate them. That way you're not competing. You're going to come out on top and be the winner if you don't have any competition. So he's tried to eliminate Jesus quite a number of times. Doesn't work. He's tried to tempt him. Doesn't work. He's tempted some angels away from heaven. So he's not a bad negotiator. I mean, most of us wouldn't have a chance at that. So as I'm looking at the headlines, I'm going to put on, I've got some new glasses, ones I can see that aren't all scratched up. The problem is you get the reflection of the light. You can see my screen. Anyhow, I get videos on YouTube that reflect my likes. Now, one of the ones that I get, which is on, what's the channel? End Times. I don't have it up here anymore because I've scrolled past it. But he made the comment that YouTube is getting really bad filtering Christian organizations, Christian channels. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with that. And they've gotten worse since the election. They're doubling down. It's like either this is Satan trying to fight back against the correcting that's going on in this country, or they want somebody to buy them, and so they're being annoying and hoping that somebody will buy them. Whichever one, it's the same results. We have to deal with it. So I'm reading these in such a way that I want you to see what you can find on YouTube. Now, YouTube isn't perfect, but it's usable. And that's why I've got my channel here. I would rather be on a channel like Rumble that doesn't fight back. But I've had problems getting files uploaded to Rumble lately because it was put together quickly and cheaply and is not apparently continuing to put money into it. And because of that, the bugs don't get fixed, the limitations don't get fixed. It needs to be easier. They used to have a routine to go over to YouTube and pull videos back to keep them in sync, and YouTube blocked that. Yeah. So what you can find on YouTube is anywhere from, I will say soft porn, because I haven't heard anybody, I don't watch this stuff, but I haven't heard anybody complain about hard porn on YouTube. But soft porn, they have commented on. Every once in a while, I'll see something come by that I don't like, and I can block the site. But you're constantly doing that. I'm more of a visual person than I am a reading person. I will go over to Twitter, where I have a larger account on Twitter, and I can read there, and I can read a lot of stuff from the government, people that go over there and type things out. But I would never sit down and read the JFK files that have been released. That's too much. There's 1,000 pages. This is not my, it actually tastes pretty good, but it's not my favorite drink because the first ingredient is high fructose corn syrup. So I have that sparingly. Sometimes I just can't quench my thirst with tea, hot tea. All right, so who is the Antichrist? Tipping point with Jimmy Evans. These are the sites that I recommend because these are the sites that come up on mine. Stephen Miller, one of the new appointees, defends Trump's call to impeach federal judge. He's completely in agreement. These federal judges are overstepping their power. It's something Satan would do, isn't it? You know, that's where they come from. Trump issues sweeping cuts to the Department of Education. I heard he's signing something today to disband it, to break it apart. It's become a political tool and not an educational tool. And sometimes you just can't fix something. If they want to recreate it, they can, but the states need to basically do this. Now, each state's going to be different, and depending on whether it's a red or a blue state, you're going to get different education. But people will move based on what education. When we moved to Georgia, we looked for where they were in their education bracket. Now, Georgia being that it's going off on rabbit holes, but I can do that on my commentaries. Georgia being a mostly rural state, they didn't score high on education. But certain parts of the metropolitan area did score high on education, and that's where we moved to initially. We initially moved to Marietta, Powder Springs, not Atlanta. Atlanta's a typical large government-run city, and things don't work right. But outside in one of the suburbs, we found good education. It was starting to go down when we got here. We left Southern California because we saw it going down first there, where the government was taking over education to indoctrinate, not to teach. And when we got here, it wasn't quite here. We were here for a few years before we saw it creeping in. My wife with the little ones wanted to be with them and found that she could get a job at one of the nationwide child rearing organizations. I don't want to say names, so I'm trying to figure out how to say it without saying a name. If I said the name, you'd know who and what they do. But basically, you take your kids, drop them off there, and they raise your kids for you because you're both working. Yeah, it's part of the problem. And if you don't have a good Christian organization. But initially, they were very good and after she'd worked there for a couple of years, the government comes in and says, we have some money for you to help you out. Here's the money. And when they get used to it, the government comes in and says, well, now that you're taking money from us, these are the rules. Stop teaching. Just let them wander about. If they get into a fight, don't break it up. They used to teach them to read and write their name anyway, at least. It made them stop that. They used to color using coloring books where they taught to stay in the line. They were just told to hand them a blank piece of paper or a crayon and step back and don't do anything. That's our government. That's when we knew we were in trouble with that. Okay. And it's gone downhill ever since. Eventually our boys went to a Christian high school. By that time I could afford that. Most people can't. Okay, the JFK files were released a couple days ago. We're finding out basically that the government ordered the assassination of our president. We thought that. This is why I continually say to pray for Trump and to pray for Musk and pray for their teams. They're trying to get to Musk by burning Teslas. And they're catching a few, and they're going to continue to catch them. But they've got 20 million illegals coming into this country, or have come into this country. If 1% are good people, that leaves 99% that aren't. The good people, we want you here. We want you to stay. The bad people, we want you out. But they're here for a job. They came here being paid to come here to disrupt this country. And they're going to do it. They're going to continue to do it until they're all departed. We're getting rid of the worst right now because they're so blatantly obvious that they're here to disrupt, they leave a signature. They can find them. But they're going to eventually get rid of most everybody that's here illegally and make sure that everybody comes here legally. And I'm all for that. Someone in France said to give back the Statue of Liberty. No, the Statue of Liberty doesn't say turn a blind eye and let them destroy you. Hang on a second. Okay, I'm back. I told you that heater was going to make it get too hot. It made the air conditioning come on. I should have got up and turned it off then, but I just started talking. Anyway, Fox News, a living hell, former Hunter Biden whistleblower describes the IRS under Biden. They were trying to basically get to everybody now. Whenever I talk about Biden, I'm talking about after his first year. I think his first year, because he did the debates reasonably well, not good enough, but reasonably well, that I don't think he was crazy then, but eventually he became unaware of his surroundings. Let's put it that way. Okay, what else we got? We have a rocket still falling over China. They are trying to keep up with Elon Musk and his space program, and they're making rockets like him, but they don't have the smarts behind it. So their rockets are going up and falling over populated areas. It shows people running from a rocket falling from the sky. You know, whether you're launching from Texas on the coast or Florida, Florida is your best spot. Florida sticks out into the ocean. You got ocean on both sides. But in any case, they're trying to keep up, and they're not doing a good job. Some of these sites use strong language to get you to read the article, and then there's nothing in it strong. They just use a headline. They grab you with the headline, and I don't play that game. That's why I don't use clickbait if I can help it. If I use the word rapture, more people will watch my video. I know that. And I have to talk about the rapture because it's part of our end times. But I don't want to talk about it every day. There isn't that much information about it. Okay. Trump's chilling warning to the Houthis. And they're pushing back. These guys are suicide bombers, essentially. They don't care. They're programmed to give their lives for their God. And they use the word God. Allah means God. It's just not our God. It's their God. And it should be the same God, but they've distorted what he is so much that it will never be the same. There was a gunshot heard or fired outside the CIA. That's probably in response to the JFK files, saying that the CIA orchestrated it, not the FBI. They're using our best technology in the war. B-2 stealth bombers wipe out Houthi rebels in minutes. They're stealth bombers. They can get up there. It's hard for radar to track them. I have a program on here that I watch. I watch science programs too. It's called What About It? And they've got an article up here. Is this the fix? They're trying to fix Starship. Their Block 2 Starship has not had a successful operation. It's been launched. It's the top part of the ship, but it hasn't successfully completed a mission yet. It's blown up twice. They've had engine troubles. It's an interim engine problem in the first place because their ultimate Block 3 has the latest, greatest engines, but they don't have enough of those yet. So we're working on it. John MacArthur. Why millions of Christians may face eternal separation. Didn't we do this in your name, Jesus? And didn't we do that? And Jesus is going to say, I don't know you. There will be people who think they're going to get to heaven and be surprised that they don't. They're going to have to reevaluate their lives after the rapture. The rapture is a reward for those of us that have followed God's plans for our lives. It's also a warning to those that were not following exactly where they should have been. And they will have to make that choice. Did I not go far enough? Did I shortchange God on this? You know, some people go, well, God, you could have this much of my life, but I'm going to manage the rest. You know, God wants all of us, all of it. Looking at some of these Arab channels. Houthis claim burning down U.S. warships with missiles. I was watching a military briefing yesterday, and somebody asked him about that. And he goes, we use precision missiles. We can fire a missile through a window of a building precisely every time. If they get within 100 miles, they consider that a victory. So he goes, they may have fired rockets at us, but if they're 100 miles away, we're not worried about them. They do the same thing in Gaza. A lot of times they fire missiles from Gaza that don't even leave Gaza. They fall on the local population and hurt them. And of course, then they blame that on the Israelis because it's all lies. How can you run a government and a religion based 100% on lies? Because if you told the truth, nobody would join your group. Another channel that I like, Hope for Our Times. Tom Hughes. The end game for Israel, prophecy unfolding before our eyes. Now he's got Tom Hughes and Bill, what's his name? Bill Salas. Bill Salas. Good people to listen to. The Pentagon, now again, you don't know about headlines whether these are true or not. Announces assault plan for Iran, 15 hours to go. This is live now, so there's only 190 watching. Out of the millions of people, billions of people that could potentially watch this, 190, so nobody's giving it any credit. We're talking about some of the experiments going on at CERN on Prophecy Watchers. Prophecy Watchers is another good channel. Another channel here. This is it's a Fox and Friends. And they're talking about the current Democratic Party is Biden's legacy. Yeah. It's going to take a long time for them to get out, but of course, they can be completely cured overnight and be completely good and do good for everybody because that's how fast it would take to write a fiction of what they're doing. They could change their narrative and their lies can change. They've been telling them the truth and getting in trouble for it, so they just start lying again, and they can be a completely new organization overnight by just changing the narrative. And they're going to have people that will follow them. John Barnett, an excellent Bible teacher. I can't compete with some of these guys. John Barnett's one of them. What Does God Say Is Coming is his title. You want to watch him. He goes through the entire Bible, and he, as best as anybody can, he knows this stuff. And he's well prepared. That's why I'm not too concerned that I'm not doing as good a job as them because you can go watch them. I'm here to basically give you commentary on it to make sure that you understand God's point of view. That's more important my background was science. I had calculus. I had advanced physics in school. We learned you can't memorize all the formulas. And if you saw Hidden Figures, which I'm in, the movie about the black women that worked at NASA. Discrimination big time back then, 60s. But they were so smart, they brought them in to help them calculate math and run the computers and stuff. They didn't have white people as smart as these black people. They had to accept them. Now, I didn't know about the story, and I'm big into NASA, so I'm glad that I helped do the movie, because then I learned about it. Kevin Costner, of course, is playing the good guy. And when one lady says she couldn't find a bathroom, and that's why she's been gone for an hour, she had to go back to her black area of the campus of NASA, he takes a crowbar and knocks the whites only sign off the bathroom. Says, we all pee yellow. It doesn't matter. Okay, that's the movie. But a good movie. And my friend Aldous Hodge is in that too. He's got lines, I don't. I don't take lines in movies because I couldn't do my independent films. They're not compatible. Hollywood, in its arrogance, has not been good to independent films. Yet that's where people come from to make their good movies. Okay. The space station is short a couple of astronauts that they finally rescued. Elon Musk has already been given the contract to destroy the space station. It's been up there many years. It's antiquated. It's time to replace it. Now, is the United States going to replace it directly? Right now, there's no plans to do that. Other countries are starting to put theirs up there. But it's not something, it's something you got to constantly maintain and worry about, because there's a lot of things flying around. A lot of big meteors, but meteorites. A pebble the size of a pea could tear through the space station if it's going fast enough, creating a hole like a bullet would. They have to constantly worry about that. Israel has begun doing ground invasion as part of their attack on Gaza. I don't know if you heard Netanyahu, but he basically says, you guys have a limited time to knock it off. If you don't stop it, we're going to take Gaza back, re-annex it back to Israel, and you won't be allowed to live there at all. And I agree. He should take it back and not allow people to live there. God gave them the land, and they gave it away at the prompting of a previous presidential member of our illustrious government. Land for peace. It doesn't work. Not when you don't know how to negotiate with people who want to kill you. You don't negotiate. You have to kill them first. It's sad when people give you no other option. But that's Satan. Satan will give them no other option. Okay, let's see, what do we got? Again, they're talking about the JFK file dump. Two preachers, Jonathan Cahn, who's a Israeli Christian. He looks Israeli. Darker skin, black beard, unlike some of our blue-eyed, blonde-haired Jesuses that we see. I don't know about the article, but he's talking to John Hagee, another prominent leader in our country. They're showing, on a video now, they're showing some of the new humanoid robots that they're coming up with. They're walking like people. They're picking stuff up and walking around with it. Satan and man are trying to recreate what God did such a magnificent job on. They're trying to recreate in the form of a robot. Now, I'm all in favor of robots up to a point. You can't replace man with it. But you can send a robot into a dangerous situation and you're not risking somebody's human life. I don't have a problem with that. We've got rovers driving all over Mars. There's supposed to be rovers on the moon right now, but a couple of them, ours fell over. NASA can't do anything anymore. Our government-run agency is not capable of technology compared to Musk. Give it to Musk and let him do it. All right, what else do we have? There's a daily Jesus devotional. I read them. Sometimes they get a little crazy, but I like their stuff most of the time. Some of the shows that I like to watch, TV shows, they still put some of the clips up. I like watching House. Hugh Laurie was a British actor with a British accent who tried to take it away, hide it, to play an American doctor. One of my sites that I like, that I'm into prepping. Not building bomb shelters, just simply prepping. There's a site on here called City Prepping that I like. They're not preparing, will you? Is this title. You can find Billy Graham on here. He's got a number of channels. I don't like him from the point of view that he's probably not a Christian, but Neil deGrasse Tyson is a good science guy, but he's probably not a Christian. But if you want to know science, he's a good one for that. All right. And they're trying to scare people. Social Security benefits are going to be cut without warning. You're not going to have Social Security. They're going to push little old ladies over the chairs in wheelchairs. Yeah, some of their rhetoric. We're basically fighting. We're almost at a war with Canada. They're at the early stages of shoving matches right now, where they threaten to turn off power, because some of the parts of northern America you can't get to because they're along the lakes. You have to go up into Canada and come back, and they're trying to block access to them, turn power off to them. This one's here. I don't know if it's inaccurate, but it says Canada just blocked U.S. access to Alaska. I don't know, because we're raising tariffs. Now, their new prime minister leader was a main figure in the World Economic Forum. That's the one world government, Klaus Schwab group. That's not going to go good for Canada. And they've had problems because they don't have a constitution to protect them like we do. They closed churches during COVID, where a lot of ours fought and stayed open. They fined them $1 million a day. They never had to pay it to shut them down, and they never shut down. All right, how are we doing on time? They're getting ready to try to launch the next Starship, so that's coming up. They're talking about possibly removing the licensing for ham radios. I'm not sure I like that idea. It's not a bad idea to have people that know what they're doing, but maybe they could release some frequencies and let that be open to the public, unlicensed. I'm not a ham operator, but I've studied it. I could pass it and have it, but I understand the technology and what it can do, and I'm not that bored with life yet that I want to talk to people on the other side of the world. I can do it online. I don't have to use a ham radio. Easy Evangelism. There's one on here. How to start a gospel conversation. You can find all kinds of tips on here. All right. Of course, I watch other channels on here. I've got 2 or 3 cooking channels. If I want to cook something and I don't know how to cook it, I'll go over to their channels and find how to do it. Most of our famous cooks, like Julia Childs or Jacques Pippin, are getting, I think she's dead now, and if not, she should be. Jacques Pippin is up in his 80s now, I guess, so there's a lot of videos, years of videos out there of these great cooks. Martha Stewart, our ex-con, because she dared to challenge the government. So you can find how to do this stuff by just going online. Okay, that's pretty much, I'm starting to get repeats now of the people that I watch. And of course I get White House briefings with Kathleen, what's her name, Levitt. I've got one here with Greg Laurie talking. He's okay. I knew his predecessor, Chuck Smith. Any case, you can still use YouTube for now. You can use Google for now, but you got to start questioning things. You have to know the Bible well enough to know when somebody is leading you astray. A friend of the channel sent me a video of a couple that have started teaching that the Revelation 12 story is about Jesus. Now, that's an old story. It's been debunked many times. Revelation is prophecy. It was written between 70 and 90 A.D. by John in prison in Patmos, so we know the rough time. It's prophecy. He's not going to go back and talk about Jesus. He's talking prophetic. It's not about Jesus. It's about the church, and it's about the rapture, which is coming up. We've got some big times coming up here now. People are throwing dates out, and I hate that. Be prepared for March 25th. I was prepared for March 15th. Beware the Ides of March. I know Shakespeare. Anybody can pick a date. And I told you, and I'll tell you again, I can guarantee to give you the rapture date. Guaranteed, 100%, by predicting it every day until we're raptured. I'll be right once. What's that prove? We're not supposed to know, or it'd be in plain English in our Bibles. And I'm being sarcastic because it wasn't written in English. It'd be in plain King's English. Okay. You can get all the information you need in short snippets. What I like to do sometimes, like for the news channels, if they're talking, I'll just start the video running, turn the sound up, and walk about. If I'm running a vacuum cleaner, that might be a problem, but I can do the dishes, I can cook, I can do other things. I can run it in the background if I'm playing a video game, and I play video games. I don't play them nonstop. I don't live with my mother in the basement, but some do. That's become their life. They've made video games addicting on purpose. You've got to take a break from it occasionally. You've got to see that life can be far more entertaining. But some of the people that are playing these video games don't know how to deal with people. They've never really had to. They've stayed in isolation so they can deal with people online, because you're not having to deal with people face to face. You've got to care about people to want to work with them face to face. And on video games, they don't. That's why they can get some of these type of people to do stupid things for the government, a la shooting at Trump. It's a dangerous world. Don't leave home without the armor of God. And the key to that is the Word, which is the sword of God. The sword can be used for offense and defense. You need to know the Bible as much as you can. You can't memorize all of it. I mean, people have tried, and some people do a good job, and some people can memorize all of Matthew or all of Corinthians like we're studying, but you can't memorize the whole thing. And just having the head knowledge isn't going to work. As I was alluding to in my science discussion about me and science, we couldn't memorize everything. My calculus and physics tests were open book. You could take your book into class. You had a limited time to complete the project. You couldn't be looking too much stuff up if you didn't already know it. You'd have to know what the formula was and where to grab it, and then you could plug the variables in. There was enough time for that, but there wasn't enough time to read the chapter. But our studies were open book because we learned that you can't keep it all up here. If it's all up here, it's a traffic jam, and you can't get anything done. And when I went to talk about hidden figures, at one point in time, she goes, "We don't have a formula for that." She goes, "Maybe it's old math." And she comes out with this great big thick worn book looking up somebody's old formula, and she found the one that she needed to allow them to go from a elliptical to a circle and to get back in orbit. It's amazing that they could do that. But it's having a concept of something and then knowing where to go get the information to fill it in. If you have the framework, you know how to fill in the rest of it. If you don't have the framework and you pull out a piece of text or a formula, you don't know how to apply it. The Bible, you've got to learn the framework. Study the framework. Study the reason for God doing what he did across the time. You don't have to memorize Deuteronomy. It's like memorizing a phone book, frankly. But knowing that the law is there. Deuteronomy and Leviticus have most of the law. 10 Commandments you can find in Exodus. But basically, knowing how to find it and studying it, putting it in. You don't have to, your brain stores things even though you're not aware that you're storing them. So keep exercising the muscle up between your ears. Read, watch videos, talk to people. Find out how they feel about things. Ultimately, that's the goal, is to talk to people and let them know that, yes, all these self-helps that you found out there are very good helping you deal with the earth. But our time on earth is limited. You want to deal with heaven. And the only way that you can deal with heaven is through being a Christian, period. You're not going to get to heaven any other way. Most of the religions don't have a good solution to where you're going. I don't want to come back as a cow. No, that's not a good solution. Or a dog or some other pet. I don't want that. They're trying to put human traits on animals. You can't do that. We are animals with a soul, so therefore we can then develop beyond being an animal. But they can't. They don't have a soul. We have a big brain, but there are whales have brains bigger than us, but they're whales. You don't find very many songs written by whales, although they can sing. Or their noises are attributed as singing. Man is unique. And God created us. Why not go to the source? We have a collection of books called the Bible, which tell us about God and us. Of course, Satan wants it completely refuted, but he can't. He's tried for years to get rid of it, and he can't. He's tried for years to get rid of mankind, and he can't. He's going to get 7 more years, well, 3.5 years to try. That's his last 3.5. So he's going to basically pull out all the stops. What's that mean? If you have an old pipe organ, you've got valves, it's air driven. You've got valves called stops, which can open up air into certain things, to play different things. When I went to church in Castro Valley, the church had a stage with flats that could go up and down and a raising and lowering of the stage. They built a theatrical stage. It had the top high-rise part you can see in the back of a theater. It had that. And it had 2 things that stuck out into the congregation. One had the pipe organ, where my friend Dave Ron Rhodes would play the organ, and I'd help him a little bit trying to learn how to do some of that. I should have spent more time with him, but I was young and foolish. Became a Christian there because of him, but for the first few years, we're all silly Christians. We don't know what we're doing. The other one was the baptismal, and that's where I was baptized at. They put a pool in this other little thing that jutted out into it's to the right and left of the stage, so it was up front, so everybody could see. Beautiful church, and the organ came out of an old theater in San Francisco, and there were 2 rooms full of instruments, pipes. So when you push a pedal, you're letting the air go out and distribute. And so the stops, that's what the stops were for, pulling out all the stops to get all the air. Okay? But there was tambourines and drums and bells and all kinds of stuff in there that he could do that kind of stuff. He's playing Christmas music, he could do the bells for Jingle Bells. There's some secular music could be played there. It's okay. It's all about Christmas. Christians. But in any case, that's what stops means, pulling out the stops. Giving it all the power. All right. I think that's enough talking for today. We'll get back to Corinthians. I'd like to be able to finish it in one more video, but I don't know. It's a big, big letter. Because he hadn't seen them for a long time, and they were really struggling. So he hits them with everything. They needed it. He had to write them a second letter. We have 2 Corinthians. I don't know if I'll go into that. I'm not sure where God's taking me next, so I just got to finish Corinthians, and then he'll give me instructions. He doesn't give me too much at a time to deal with because I can't handle it. Most people can't. When we're dealing with God, be happy that he doles out daily what you have to do. If he handed you, this is what you got to do with your life, you'd probably throw your hands up and run into the night screaming, I can't do all this, God. Well, of course you can't. But God can do it through you. But we don't know that until we experience it. Until we meet in the clouds, God bless.